And he was outside the court. He was reporting on the trial of a grooming gang, as I would call it, a rape squad. It's a cause, as you rightly say, that he's believed in for so many years. And he's one of those people who's been calling this out relentlessly, despite all of the slurs that are made against him. And yet, within 5 hours, he was arrested, he was tried, and he was sent to prison for 13 months. And none of us were allowed to talk about it, write about it, mention it, because there was also a ban on any of the media speaking about it.
Well, that's the part I don't understand.
These are very dark times in the UK. It's a very curious feeling in this country at the moment. And I would say the country is on a knife edge. There is a real sense now that we are against our own government, that the establishment is working against us. And in order to cleanse voices it doesn't like, it will put them inside for as long as it needs to shut them up.
That's horrifying. I don't know, I'll be honest, anything really about Tommy Robinson. I don't care. I don't know what he believed. Doesn't matter. He was saying what he thinks in public.
Take that, Tucker. I don't know Tommy either. I'm not a colleague of his. I'm not. I don't work with him. Many people say he's an idiot, and in some ways I concur.
So what?
He's been told not to report at these trials, and yet he's still there reporting. He didn't go with his lawyer or solicitor. You know, he knew he was going to get into trouble. But then I say to myself, even if you don't like the guy, even if you don't know the guy, surely there's some fundamental principles like,
yes,
where was the swift justice for the victims of the grooming gangs? Where was the swift justice for the 11-year-old that was? If we can get Tommy in prison within 5 hours, where was the swift justice for these men, and where was the swift justice for the victims? And I would also say, no matter what you think of Tommy, whether you hate him, love him, don't know him, throwing him in prison when he is a guy who's repeatedly called out majority Pakistani grooming gangs, rape squads, that is a death sentence for Tommy Robinson. And we may criticize, our government may criticize the Russians, like for getting rid of Skripal and other.
The exchange between Katie Hopkins and Tucker Carlson reveals far more than a disagreement over a single arrest. It exposes a broader crisis of trust between the public and the institutions that govern them. Hopkins frames the situation as evidence of a nation drifting into a climate where dissenting voices are treated as threats rather than participants in public debate. Her argument hinges on the speed and secrecy surrounding Tommy Robinson's arrest, the rapid trial, the immediate imprisonment, and the accompanying restrictions on media discussion. To Hopkins and Carlson, this raises a fundamental democratic question. How can a government justify such swift, punitive action while simultaneously appearing slow, hesitant, or opaque in dealing with other major societal issues? Carlson's detached stance adds another layer. He openly states he does not know Robinson or share his views, yet he recognizes the implications of imprisoning someone simply for broadcasting their opinions. What emerges is not a defense of Robinson's ideology, but a critique of state power, institutional inconsistency, and a growing fear that political establishment figures now police speech as aggressively as they police action. Hopkins's warning about a country on a knife edge captures a sentiment shared by many. A sense that the social contract is fraying and that government no longer appears aligned with the people it claims to represent. In this framing, Robinson becomes less a symbol of his own controversies and more a case study of how political authority reacts when confronted by voices it finds inconvenient.
I mean, my family have a WhatsApp group where we're always warning everybody else in the family about obvious scams, but not an awful lot of people do fall for them and actually just part with huge amounts of money.
They absolutely do, and it's very easy to fall into it because the scammers will use psychological tricks. So things like making it look like you've only got 2 hours to get a bargain and things like that. So the pressure sort of overrides any common sense thinking, and you tend to think, oh, I've got to get it now before it goes. So using those kinds of tricks really help in scamming people, really.
So what do we need to look out for, Helen?
I think the classic ones are if you're getting emails and they're saying, go to this website and you'll get 20% off or 30% off, because they might not be the site that you think they are. So it could be an email, a text, that don't click on those links unless you absolutely trust it. So go out of that, go onto the internet and type in a website. If it's a website that you've never been to before, then you can put into a search the name of the company and scam and see if any articles come up. Check out the reviews, obviously not the reviews on the website because they could be fake. So it's those kinds of things and being aware of the tricks really, and things like the padlock on the top of the on the website. That isn't about security. That's just about sort of correspondence is being kept clear. So it is a case of just making sure that you know all those things. And of course, the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, and also you can click on, I don't mean click to go through it anywhere, but you can go to the address of the person who sent you either the text or the email. And very often the scam has this ridiculously long, almost Chinese sort of address. And it's very clearly from somebody who isn't who they say they are.
Yeah, but also just remember that also for those texts and emails, they can fake where it's coming from as well, just like they can fake the phone number. So you come up with a number saying it's from your bank, it might not necessarily be your bank. So they are, they're very clever, those tricks that they can use, but always use a credit card if possible when you're buying, so you've got that cover as well.
What happens if you do get scammed, Helen? What should you do?
You should go to your bank. So hopefully you'll have used a credit card, so you'll have got Section 75 cover for anything that's over £100, and under £100 if you've used a credit card or a debit card, you've got the chargeback. So immediately go to your bank and see if they can help you get that money back. They should, under those schemes, give you the money back. Don't use bank transfers ever.
But what about action fraud?
You can report it to Action Fraud, but they don't actually investigate individual cases. So you can report it to Action Fraud, and then they will use that to build up a picture. So if everybody forwards the same kind of email, then they'll look into that as part of their investigation into fraud and crime, but they won't help you as an individual.
Yeah, you can very often, as you said, you can Google the company or whatever and say, is this a scam? You can also ask AI, do you think this is a scam? And it will give you quite a sort of good breakdown.
Be very careful of using AI for anything like that. It does tend to get things wrong.
Yes.
It even says itself, if you're looking for consumer laws and stuff, it gets things wrong all the time. So I would be very careful of using AI.
But you can use an overall impression. It's as you were saying, if it looks like it's too good to be true, then treat it with absolute suspicion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you can look at, apps like sites like Price Runner and Price Spy, and you can see the price of items across different stores. So if it looks like, everywhere's selling something for about £50-60, and then this site's selling it for £20, you have to ask yourself why.
Why?
Yeah. All right, Helen, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.